3 sinister and spine-chilling music festival secrets uncovered. Terrifying experiences exposed. Rachel's heart raced like a runaway train as the energy of the annual music festival buzzed in her ears. That sacred weekend in their small town, with families dancing through near-perfect summer nights, ignited a mix of thrill and dread inside her. Each laugh and shout that floated through her open window felt like serrated edges against her senses. A constant reminder that her daughter, Mia, would be out there, swept away in the chaos. But what about the secrets lurking beneath the surface of the celebration? Stories whispered by old friends at the diner crept back into her mind, the chilling tales of children vanishing from the vibrant atmosphere, leaving nothing but echoes of laughter behind as the sun dipped below the horizon. The amphitheater, long abandoned and draped in eerie nostalgia, loomed nearby like a specter of broken promises. Each year, the festival promised light and music, yet it also stirred deep-rooted fears of malevolence threading its way through the joyful crowd, peeking out from behind bright lights and distant tunes. Rachel shuddered, recalling her mother's warnings. Always keep an eye on your child, dear. Sometimes shadows disguise as friends. Mia burst from the house, vibrant and alive in a sea of friends, her laughter mingling with the breeze. Everything felt wrong, yet Rachel couldn't shake the anxiety clawing at her insides. This was a night of enchantment for many, while for her, it spun into an obsession with keeping Mia safe amid a sea of youthful abandon. She watched, breath shallow, as Mia slipped away into the revelry beyond a swirl of colors and sounds ready to swallow her girl whole. Suddenly, a dread consuming the night arrived when Mia's phone lost signal. Rachel's heart plummeted into her chest, a cold wave washing over her. The music swelled louder, but no peaceful tones reached her ears. She forced herself into the crowd, heart hammering, knees shaking, a relentless surge of frantic parents around her. Festooned in colorful attire, blissfully unaware. Primal instinct gripped her. She couldn't shake the gnawing feeling. What if Mia became just another whispered haunting among the threads of festival folklore? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Rachel pressed deeper into the lively chaos under twinkling string lights, she caught sight of a well-dressed festival coordinator, a smooth-talking man with an unnerving glint in his eyes. He laughed lightly, weaving away questions about missing children, his charm masking something sinister beneath the surface. Cold sweat trickled down her back as she swept her gaze over familiar faces in the crowd. Were they who they seemed to be? Laughter transformed into sinister whispers, and it felt as if they conspired behind their painted smiles. Just then, darkness draped over the festival, pulsing with unnerving energy. Rachel tightened her grip on the determined threads of courage bolstering her, but glances from the crowd pierced through her confidence. Eyes she could feel breathing down her neck. Reacting instinctively, she readied herself for confrontation. The stakes couldn't be higher. Would she uncover the truths buried beneath the festival's intoxicating rhythm? Or was she already standing too close to something terrifying? A shadow lurking just beyond reach? The night held answers she never desired. A darkness waiting to ensnare both her and Mia, a festival alive with secrets, eagerly awaiting their revelation. Rachel pushed through the throng of bodies, her heartbeat competing with the booming bass of the music that vibrated her very bones. The festival lights twinkled above like a false sparkle of safety, twisting shadows that danced as the crowd swayed, oblivious to her dread. Each face she passed seemed foreign and untrustworthy, smiles frozen on lips that could just as easily hide malicious intentions. "Mia!" she shouted, the name barely rising above the cacophony. She tried again, her voice cracking with panic, desperation clawing at her throat. The faces around her blurred into a kaleidoscope of color and laughter, but her daughter was nowhere in sight. Every second felt like a minute, Every passing moment gnawed at her insides like a festering wound. An old man with a tattered hat stepped in her path, his gaze too intense and knowing. "You shouldn't be here, miss," he croaked, voice gravelly like dry leaves. "The festival is not what it seems. Children don't just disappear. There's a reason. Get away from me." Rachel snapped, fear making her voice sharper than intended. She pushed past him, the warning lingering thick in the air. What was it that lay hidden behind the vibrant facade? Her heart raced faster, each beat a sticky echo of despair. Suddenly, a shrill howl pierced through the laughter and music. A mother, her face painted with horror, sprinted by, bag clutched tightly in her trembling hands. A hint of panic surged through the crowd like a ripple. She searched the faces of revelers, confusion in her eyes, then disappeared into the throng, absorbed into an uncertainty that had no room for victims. Rachel felt the urgency clawing at her, pushing her deeper into the chaos. The energy swelled, morphing into something uneasy and tight. She spotted a figure standing at the edge of the crowd, a man in a long black coat, his face obscured by the shadows. He glanced her way, his eyes narrowing for a heartbeat before turning back into the darkness. Unshaken, he seemed to blend into the night like part of the gathering storm. "Mia!" Rachel shouted, willing her voice strong enough to beat against the haze. No response, just the thrumming bass and laughter that twisted sharper, more sinister. Her instincts screamed a warning, and her feet began to lead her toward the amphitheater, drawn by an invisible thread that felt more like a noose. She could barely think, only move, each step feeling heavier. Once a source of joy, now the amphitheater appeared as a dark sentinel, the air surrounding it charged with malevolent energy. A sense of wrongness hung heavily, and she shivered, goosebumps rising on her arms. Rachel reached the entrance, hesitating. Shadows stretched across the cracked stone, beckoning her further into the abyss. The music muffled into an unsettling silence, almost as if the universe anticipated what might lurk inside. What had she unleashed by stepping into this metaphoric lioness den? Then, clear above the dreadful quiet, a soft giggle broke through, sweet and innocent, eerily familiar. Her heart sank. "Mia?" The giggle echoed again, just beyond sight, a playful taunt in the darkness. With each step, the dread coiled tighter around her chest. She pushed forward, the shadows swallowing her whole, straining to suppress the fear rising in her throat. What awaited her deeper within? The name of the festival echoed with newfound dread in her mind, the Vanishing Voices Festival. What if horror was not hidden behind the lights, but intertwined within them? And then she heard it. A whisper. "Mommy!" Rachel froze. Was it truly Mia? Or a cruel deceit? A chill crept down her spine, filling the empty void where courage once thrived. Before she could process, the ground beneath her trembled, the walls vibrating with a heartbeat of their own. The festival held secrets she could no longer avoid. As the shadows began to close in, Rachel felt the weight of a choice bearing down, as oppressive as the night. Would she venture down this dark path to save her daughter, or succumb to the darkness, becoming just another story wrapped in whispers? What awaited her on the other side of the amphitheater? Would the truth be worth the cost of what it might take to uncover it? The giggle danced away on the breeze, teasing and echoing, fading into the shifting darkness of the amphitheater. Rachel moved deeper, each step heavy with dread. The silence wrapped around her like a shroud, swallowing any hint of the festival's vibrancy. She could still hear the faint bass lingering in the air, a pulse that belied the empty surroundings. "Mommy," the whisper was so soft, it was almost a sigh carried by the stagnant air. Rachel's heart raced. She couldn't tell if she was hearing it in her head or if it was real, but she had to follow. Her hands trembled, cold sweat gathering at her palms, as she pushed forward into the shadows. The walls appeared to close in, shifting and warping as if alive. Then she spotted a flicker of light deeper within, like a candle pulling her closer. Instinctively, she clenched her fists, a futile attempt to bolster her courage as her legs carried her toward that ominous glow. The air thickened with something suffocating, an unseen weight pressing on her chest. The fear felt alive, feeding off her uncertainty as she neared the source of the light. She stumbled, tripping over an uneven stone. She gasped as her hands grazed against the cold surface, feeling something sticky beneath her fingertips. A quick glance revealed a shimmering crimson stain, a chill seeping into her bones. Part of the show? She wondered, forcing her breath to steady. But deep inside, a gnawing dread confirmed what she feared. It felt like blood, and the realization churned her stomach. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to flee from whatever darkness awaited. Then she heard it again, louder this time. "Mommy!" The urgency in Mia's voice wrapped around her heart, squeezing tighter. Rachel pushed through the doubt, moving toward the light, desperately hoping it would lead her to her daughter. She stepped into a wide chamber. The flickering light revealed a scene that made her blood run cold. Dozens of lanterns hung from the ceiling, each one glowing a sickly yellow. And there, in the center, was a stage black and twisted, adorned with strange symbols that seemed to writhe under her gaze. The air buzzed, thick with whispers from a crowd hidden beyond the shadows. Rachel peered closer, squinting into the darkness as panic surged. A cluster of figures stood at the far edges, their faces obscured. But the gleam of their eyes reflected the lantern light, a hunger lurking behind. Suddenly, another giggle, a chorus of laughter from unseen children, dripping with a playful malice that sent a shiver straight to her core. She felt as though she had stepped into an old ghost story where innocence had been corrupted, where laughter hid something sinister. "Mia!" Rachel's voice trembled, breaking through the laughter like glass shattering. She stepped forward, heart racing, energy crackling in the air. But then, from the darkness, a figure emerged, a small silhouette, drenched in shadow. As it moved closer, the laughter faded, replaced by a haunting stillness that settled heavily around her. The child raised her head, and Rachel's heart plummeted. It was Mia, but something was wrong. Her eyes glimmered strangely, far too large and vacant, and her lips curled into a smile that sent waves of icy dread coursing through Rachel. "Mommy, you found me." Her voice felt broken, echoing in a way that made Rachel's skin crawl, as if the festival itself drained her daughter of everything pure. "What have they done to you?" Rachel's voice broke, dread flooding her mind. Every horror story she had ever heard unfolded in her thoughts. Spirits, stolen souls, trapped fates. And then, as if ripped from the pages of her nightmares, the crowd erupted into a chant, a deafening blend of voices reinforcing the darkness. Join us, join us." Rachel's feet were rooted to the ground, fear constricting her throat. The walls pulsed, drawing her into their insatiable hunger. Could she reach Mia before it was too late? Or had the festival already taken everything? As the crowd closed in, she felt the shadows reaching for her, suffocating, leaving only the hollow echo of her daughter's empty smile ringing in her ears. The air thickened with dread, and just as she prepared to bolt into the depths of darkness, the ground shuddered beneath her feet. It was a warning, a promise that escape was not an option. What horrors awaited as the children of the night prepared to rise? Would Rachel find the will to fight, or stand frozen before the ancient cycle of terror? Rachel's mind raced, caught in a whirlwind of panic and disbelief. The chanting grew louder, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket, each word a rope pulling her closer to a nightmare. Join us, the crowd surged, shadows melding into grotesque forms. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest as she struggled to process what she was seeing and hearing. "Mia!" Her voice broke through the noise, desperate and trembling. The moment felt like eternity, every second stretching out, teasing her with hope and horror. Mia's vacant smile twisted and turned in the flickering light, shifting into something alien, something that did not belong to her daughter. The shadows loomed, and Rachel's instinct screamed at her to move. She took a step back, trembling hands reaching out instinctively toward Mia, wanting to pull her away from this twisted stage. But when she called out again, the child's gaze seemed to harden, a stark change that sent ice down Rachel's spine. "Mommy, I'm happy here," Mia said, her voice eerily calm. The sweetness dripped with something sinister, a tone that felt foreign to Rachel's ears. It struck her like a slap. Mia was there but not fully there, caught between this world and the darkness that cloaked it. The figures in the shadows began to move, closing ranks, their outlines shifting like smoke. For a brief moment, Rachel's eyes locked with one of the masked onlookers. A small flash of recognition in those hollow eyes sent a jolt of terror through her. Each of those faces could belong to someone she recognized. She staggered back, breath hitching, and Mia stepped forward into the circle of lantern light. The ground beneath Rachel trembled violently, as if the very earth was trying to dislodge the intruders. "Join us," the chant harmonized again, this time sounding like a cruel refrain echoing from her own childhood lullabies. It struck a cruel chord in her. "Let them take you." Words she had never wanted to hear, yet here they were, rolling off unseen tongues. Rachel took another step back. No, she wouldn't let them win. Not her daughter, not this time. With every ounce of strength, she shouted, "Mia, come back to me." The girl's body jerked as if struck by a jolt of electricity. Suddenly, her expression flickered, the vacant look giving way to a moment of clarity, of fear. "Mommy," but before she could finish, the shadows surged forward, swallowing those precious words. Reacting on instinct, Rachel lunged toward her. Bodies collided in a chaotic frenzy. Faces twisted in manic glee, hunger shining behind masked visages. Panic surged like a tidal wave, forcing the air from her lungs. She shoved past one figure, her hand grazing against the fabric that felt slick like sweat or blood, she couldn't tell. "Mia!" she cried again, fusing desperation into her voice. But the crowd was relentless, pushing her away from Mia, its grip icy and suffocating. She was pulled inexorably into the throng, the lanterns casting flickering shadows that danced menacingly on the walls of the chamber. Holy exclamations cut through her brain like knives, shooting adrenaline coursing through her veins. Yet she felt like they were drowning her in darkness. The figures began to spin in a twisted waltz, their joy intoxicating and horrifying. Rachel's heart felt like it was bursting. She staggered, desperate to break free, to find her daughter and fight against whatever insidious pull held them both captive. Just before everything dissolved into a chaotic blur, she glimpsed Mia again. The small girl was reaching, her hands outstretched, but the distance between them widened with every passing moment. Rachel's heart sank at her child's despondent expression as the shadows grasped her shoulders, pulling her back. "Mommy! Help!" Mia's voice sliced through the dense air, but it was barely audible over the chaos. Rachel felt as if she was being split in two, the tug of the love for her daughter and the cold fingers of dread binding her to this terrible place. Suddenly, the stage erupts into blinding brightness, stripping shadows of their power, and a terrible silence washed over the chamber, pressing inwards. The crowd froze, eyes wide. A new figure stepped forward, emanating a chill that coiled around Rachel like a serpent. There was something familiar about it, something that made her blood run even colder, as her heart started to pound even harder. "Welcome back, my child," it whispered, voice smooth and serpentine, and Rachel could feel every drop of dread pooling in her stomach. What had she awakened? What lurked in the shadows beyond? Rachel could only feel the tightening grip of fate begin to clench around her, a grip she might not escape. As the tension hung thick in the air, she was left wondering if she would merely be a part of the festival's dark tapestry, or if she could still fight for her daughter's soul. As the figure drew closer, one question burned deep. Would she find a way through the darkness, or would she be lost to it forever? Rachel's breath caught in her throat as the figure loomed larger, its features just beyond the range of recognition. The air pulsed with an energy that felt both inviting and repulsive. It stepped forward, revealing a visage that twisted between familiar and grotesque. The eyes glimmered with a twisted mirth, and a malicious smile creased its lips. "Join us," it echoed, the whisper vibrating through the chamber like a dark melody. Instinctively, Rachel took a step back, but the shadows around her thickened, pressing closer until she felt their chill seep into her bones. "Mia!" she cried out again, and her voice trembled, desperate to pierce the thick veil of darkness. Fear clawed at her, tearing at her resolve. The chanting faded into a haunting memory, echoed by the chilling laughter of those surrounding her, their bodies swaying rhythmically. Mia, her heart shattered with every breath, each syllable steeped in terror. The figure took another step forward, and the lanterns flickered, casting eerie patterns that danced on the walls. Rachel's mind raced. She needed to get to her daughter. She could feel the distance between them growing, like an invisible force pulling her back. Mia, the softness in her voice cracked, morphing into raw desperation. We can leave together. But the figure's grip, whatever it was, tightened around Mia, and the small girl's eyes widened. For a fleeting moment, Rachel glimpsed her daughter's true self beneath that vacant facade. That was all she needed to ignite a spark of determination. She forced her feet to move, pushing against the tide of darkness. "Let her go," Rachel screamed, each word surging with defiance. The laughter paused, and silence suffocated the air. The onlookers turned, their faces blank, shadowy masks reflecting the flickering light. The air felt electric, a palpable tension vibrating through the chamber. The figure tilted its head, a calculating glint in its eerie eyes. "Do you wish to take her from us?" it whispered, the voice like silk wrapped around a blade. It leaned closer, breath cold against Rachel's skin. "What if you could join her instead? What if you could become part of this celebration?" Rachel's heart raced. "No, I refuse to be part of this madness." With fierce resolve, she reached out again, but the ground shook, sending tremors through her limbs. Panic flooded her senses as the shadows began to close in, the walls seeming to fluctuate between reality and some twisted dimension. Hands cold and clammy grasped at her, pulling her deeper into the darkness. "Mia!" she shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. But the sound was swallowed whole by the building chaos. The shadows flickered and pulsed, transforming the once familiar chamber into an abyss, where hope was mere flickers of light swallowed by dark waves. Suddenly, she felt a tug, a warmth breaking through the cold tendrils wrapped around her heart. "Mia!" The tiny hand reaching out once more, clasped in furious determination. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Rachel felt something shift within her, a spark of courage igniting. "Mia, follow my voice," she urged, rallying every ounce of her willpower. "I won't let you go." The figure let out a shriek of rage that sent ice down Rachel's spine. Shadows erupted into a violent storm, and now it was Mia's turn to fight against that grip, struggling with all her tiny strength to break free. The chanting swelled that split second, echoing around them, weaving a nightmarish symphony. Rachel could hardly distinguish the words, but one thing was clear: it was a call to merge into the darkness, a seduction to join their twisted feast. Rachel took a step toward her daughter, fueled by maternal instinct, her own fears melting into a blaze of determination. But the figure reached out a pale hand, and something in its eyes darkened with rage. "Foolish child," it hissed, "you know not what you invoke." Just then, thunderous cracks filled the chamber, shaking it to its core. Lanterns swung wildly, shadows breaching the once protected facade, ripping away the boundaries of existence. Rachel felt a tremor deep within, as if reality itself was fracturing. Would she and Mia escape or be consumed by the very darkness that threatened to engulf them both? As the howling wind erupted, threatening to tear them apart, Rachel lunged forward once more, desperate to grab hold of Mia's hand, battling against the tide. But would the darkness let them go? Or now awakened, was it hungry for more? Rachel's fingers grazed Mia's, the connection momentarily electrifying. The shadows roiled with fury, scrambling against the will of a mother fighting to pull her child from the abyss. Yet, the chill around them deepened, the air thick with an oppressive weight, as the sinister figure surged forward, its grin widening with grotesque satisfaction. "Mia!" Rachel screamed, her voice a desperate cry that thrashed against the cacophony. The shadows flickered, briefly illuminating faces twisted in ecstasy, devoid of humanity. One by one, they joined in with the figure, a chorus of demonic laughter rising around her like a haunting song. The ground splintered beneath her feet. Rachel could feel it crack, like ice underfoot, and she faltered for just a moment. The creature lunged, its skeletal hand brushing her shoulder, and every hair on Rachel's body shot up in an unyielding cocktail of terror and urgency. "Join us," it rasped, its breath a fetid reminder of decay. "You belong here. Let go of the light." "No," she roared back, clenching her jaw, refusing to let the whispers seep in. Mia's small hand gripped hers, and Rachel could see the struggle in her daughter's eyes, a glitter of fear mixed with a desperate hope that was almost too much to bear. The girl fought against the darkness, her tiny frame trembling but resolute. In this place, the figure cooed, circling them like a predator. "You'll know joy, endless joy." Its voice slithered into Rachel's mind, taunting her thoughts, twisting memories of laughter into nightmares. "No," she shouted again, pushing forward against the tide, feeling the warmth slip through her fingers as shadows tried to tear Mia away. With every step closer they took, the world around them twisted more grotesquely. The chamber seemed to expand and contract, as if it were alive, each beat synchronized with the ominous murmurs that echoed against the walls. "Mia, keep hold of my voice. Don't listen to them," Rachel cried, her heart hammering wildly against her ribs, her breaths coming in shallow bursts. Behind them, the crowd of shadows writhed, whispering lost tales of desire and freedom. But Rachel focused on the singular truth: her daughter's safety. She launched forward, fueled by fierce love, battling her way through the swirling mass of darkness that sought to entangle them both. Fingers dug deeper into her skin, tearing at her resolve. Panic ignited within her. Just as she felt herself faltering, her vision burst with memories: warm sunlight filtering through trees, Mia's laughter echoing through empty rooms, the buoyancy of love unsullied by despair. "Fight," Rachel urged. "Fight with me, Mia." Mia's face flickered back to life. For a heartbeat, Rachel saw her daughter clear of shadow, the little girl who trusted her completely. Through the swirling tempest of voices that filled the chamber, a single note broke through like the crack of dawn. Mia's voice pierced the darkness, sharper than the shadows. It sent a shockwave through Rachel, igniting a flurry of resolve that blazed hotter than before. As Rachel swung her arm wide, she felt a transformation taking place. The shadows recoiled just enough for her to grasp Mia's outstretched fingers, with the girl now reclaiming her strength. But the malicious figure wasn't done yet. With a furious screech, it lunged, the air thickening with dread. "Begone, woman," it bellowed, rage twisting its features further into chaos. Suddenly, more cracks shattered the atmosphere, vibrations thrumming in their bones as the very fabric of the chamber began to tear. A rift opened in the center, pulsing like a heartbeat, revealing a churning vortex of despair and longing that threatened to swallow them whole. "Run," Rachel urged, yanking Mia towards the opening. They darted forward, but every instinct screamed that the void was hungry. And those fleeting seconds, reality contorted around them, and she had to confront a chilling question echoing through her mind: what awaited them on the other side? Would it be salvation, or was this simply another trap laid by the darkness? The moment hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty, and as they leapt toward the rift, everything went black around them. What awaited on the other side of that darkness? Would they find a way back to the light, or would they become just another whisper in the shadows? Rachel hit the ground hard, a jarring thud followed by a disorienting rush. She blinked, gasping for air as her surroundings shifted from oppressive darkness to an unsettling twilight. The rift had spat them out into a realm caught in between worlds, where nothing felt truly alive or truly dead. "Mia!" she shouted, panic clawing at her throat as she scrambled to her feet. Mia lay a few feet away, her small body curled tight, shivering as if caught in a sudden chill. Rachel rushed to her, relief flooding her but quickly dimming as she noticed the shadows still lurking around, whispering in hushed tones that echoed in the dim light. "Mom, I don't like this place," Mia moaned, her voice trembling. "Neither do I, honey. We have to stick together," Rachel whispered, her heart racing. The air crackled with tension, vibrating with an anxious hum that left her skin crawling. As they steadied themselves, the world around them morphed. Silence fell, and the gloom deepened into a melancholic hollowness. The silhouettes began to resolve, grimy, twisted figures moving closer, their eyes gleaming like shards of glass in the dusk. With each step they took, dread thickened in the air. It reeked of decay, like something rotting beneath the surface. Rachel's thoughts raced, driven by instincts honed by fear. How could they escape? Where were they? Keep moving, Mia, Rachel urged, nudging the girl forward. Just don't look behind you. As they pushed deeper into the so-called twilight world, a chilling murmur swelled around them. The figures drew nearer, and Rachel could almost make out their distorted faces, each one contorted in a nightmarish grin, a collective hunger radiating off them. Rachel stole a glance back, and her heart sank. One figure stepped forward, its mouth stretching into a wide, gaping smile, as if it was savoring the terror sparking in her chest. "Join us, sweet souls," it crooned, its voice a soft, dark melody that tugged at her sanity. "You are perfect, just like the rest of us." "No," Mia cried, squeezing Rachel's hand tighter. The girl's wide eyes mirrored the deep-rooted fear thrumming through her mother. But then, something shifted. A flicker of light flared in the background, a distant glow caught Rachel's eye. It pulsed softly, beckoning like a lighthouse in a black storm. "Mia, look, a way out." They sprinted toward it, adrenaline surging. The figures surged too, their laughter chasing them like a hunting pack. Rachel could feel their grasping hands brushing against her skin, cold and clammy, a vile invitation to surrender. "Faster," she urged, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Each firmer footfall amplified the roar of the shadows behind them, rage boiling over as the light pulsated brighter, drawing nearer. The world around them started to shake, the ground trembling like a living creature caught in torment. Rachel stumbled, adrenaline spiking as she heard the whispers twist back into a cacophony of despair, shouts clawing at her mind. "Leave her," one yelled. "You'll never escape." The darkness surged closer, threatening to pull them under with every word spoken. "Just a little more," Rachel encouraged, not sparing a glance at the chasing void. She tightened her grip on Mia, and with a determined leap, they barreled towards the light. Finally, they broke through, stepping into an ethereal brightness that felt like stepping from night into day. But relief was short-lived. The brightness swirled, revealing a new landscape. Ice-cold winds whipped around them, and the ground glistened with frost like glass. Shadows loomed in the distance, larger than before, their outlines sharper, more threatening. "What is this place?" Mia whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. Rachel's heart sank. They had escaped one horror, but here lay another, a stark uncertainty that coiled tighter than the last. The light flickered ominously, like a candle finding its last breath, as a voice echoed from behind in the darkness. "You think you're safe now, but the hunt has just begun." A shiver raced down Rachel's spine. A new nightmare awaited them, one that would force them to confront everything they had narrowly escaped. Would they ever truly find solace, or were they forever trapped in an endless cycle of terror? They stood on the precipice of another choice, the unknown stretching endlessly before them. Would they flee deeper into the light, or fall back into the grasp of the shadows? The wind howled, sending biting shards of ice against Rachel's skin. The moment the brightness faded, a heavy weight pressed down on her, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She glanced at Mia, whose small frame trembled under the force of the chilling gusts. "Stay close," Rachel commanded, her voice shout against the wind. Fear had a way of nesting in her gut, and it spoke louder as they stood there, the ice-covered ground sprawling like a frozen sea, its surface cracked and uneven. Shapes loomed darkly against the swirling brightness, obscured by haze. They were larger than before, menacing shadows with jagged outlines that teased the edges of vision. Rachel felt the pull of dread, a premonition that whatever this new realm held, it wasn't a sanctuary. "Mom, I feel them," Mia whispered, her voice shaky. Rachel's heart sank at the mounting tension that twisted through her daughter's words. Rachel bit her lip, scanning the horizon. We can't let them see us. We need to move. Together, they stepped cautiously from their place, leaving behind the flickering light as they trudged forward. The icy ground crackled underfoot. Each step sounded like the snapping of bones, an unsettling echo that added to the growing unease. The darkness just beyond the illuminated edge kept shifting, revealing more silhouettes, their forms shifting and coiling like smoke. Whispers crawled into their ears, disjointed phrases that sent chills racing down Rachel's spine. Lost, forgotten, hunger. Mom, they're saying something. Mia pressed closer, pulling at Rachel's jacket. I know, Rachel murmured, fear darting through her veins. It felt like a labyrinth, every turn laced with the threat of something lurking just out of sight. Suddenly, one shadow stepped forward into the light, a figure tall and towering, grotesque in its resemblance to something human. It had hollow eyes and a mouth that stretched unnaturally, dripping with darkness. Your fear fuels us. Come join the feast. It hissed with a voice that curled like smoke around her. The air grew thick with ice and terror, suffocating Rachel's resolve. No, she shouted, feeling the grip of panic tightening around her as she grasped Mia's hand tighter, dragging her away from the sinister presence. But the ground shook again, a violent tremor that rattled through them. The shadows formed a funnel, drawing closer together, cutting off retreat. Keep moving, Rachel urged as they dashed forward, weaving through the shifting shapes. The figures seemed to grow in number, relentless in their pursuit. She could sense their sharp breaths, the cold breath of despair cascading towards them like a tidal wave. Behind her, she heard a cacophony of laughter, a chilling sound that sent ripples of horror through her body. You can't escape. You belong to us now, they called, the words twisting in the air like a malevolent melody seeking to capture their souls. Mia stumbled, her legs faltering as she gasped. I can't run anymore. Rachel felt her heart skip, a surge of desperation rushing through her. We have to, Mia. They want to take us. In an instant, Rachel spotted another flicker of light fainter, dancing on the horizon, pulsing as if responding to their struggle. There, she screamed. To the light. With renewed determination, they raced ahead, the shadows close behind. Each frantic heartbeat sounded like thunder in her ears, her vision narrowing to that beacon of hope. But as they dashed forward, the figures began to separate, revealing a path lined with fragmented mirrors, each reflecting twisted images of their own fear. Rachel's breath quickened as she caught a glimpse of herself, hollowed eyes. A twisted smile. She was one of them, lost in the darkness. Mom! Mia cried, her voice fractured by terror. We're almost there, Rachel shouted fiercely, clenching her teeth against the waving dread. She plunged ahead, knowing the light was their only salvation. But suddenly, a sharp pain pierced her ankle, causing her to fall. Dark hands shot out from the cracks, grasping her, pulling her into the depths of unfolding darkness. Mia, run! Rachel screamed as she struggled against the growing hold. The ground felt like quicksand, sucking her deeper as shadows cackled around her. Mia's scream was filled with pure terror. Could she save her daughter? Rachel fought against the darkness, feeling her strength wane, the hunt closing in. As she was dragged under, she glimpsed Mia standing at the edge of the fading light, paralyzed by fear. Go, now! Rachel shrieked, desperation flooding her voice as everything went black. The frigid grip of the shadows held her tight, the whispers rising into a deafening roar as Rachel wondered if this time they would be lost forever. In that moment, she understood the fight wasn't over, it had just begun. The question hung thick in the air. What horrors awaited Mia as she faced the impending darkness alone? Mia's heart hammered in her chest, a wild drumbeat of fear and confusion. She stood frozen, watching her mother disappear into the churning blackness, a swirling storm of shadows. The ghosts danced around her, their laughter echoing, taunting her, twisting around her mind like vines closing in. Move! You have to move! Something deep inside her screamed, but her legs felt like they were cemented to the ice. A suffocating weight pressed down on her, and the shadows around her pulsed, hungry for her despair. "Mom!" Mia called again, her voice swallowed by the void. She had to decide stay and subject herself to the darkness, or try to reach that fateful light she had seen through the storm. The shadows beckoned, whispering promises of safety through surrender. With an abrupt jolt, she shattered her paralysis and stumbled back, catching her breath. "No, I won't give in." The moment of defiance freed something within her, and she turned, eyes darting toward the flickering glow far ahead. The ice crunched beneath her feet as she sprinted toward the light, adrenaline screaming through her veins. The shadows hissed, slithering closer as they sensed her movement. Mia felt the chill brush against her skin, a phantom touch that seeped into her bones. "Keep going," she urged herself, forcing her legs to move faster. The darkness surged and swarmed, whispering her name like a sweet poison. "Mia!" She shook her head, urgency banishing the horror attempting to creep back in. "No, you won't take me." Every step forward felt like defying a tide, but she pressed on, the flickering warmth drawing her closer. As she ran, the mirror shards began to splinter around her. Reflections emerged, each one more grotesque than the last. A smiling face twisted into something menacing, eyes that glowed with a wretched hunger. She saw her mother's face too, contorted in anguish, trapped beneath the suffocating shadows. Mia stumbled, the images assaulting her senses. What if her mother was gone? What if she stood alone against the darkness? "Mom!" The word ripped itself from her throat, raw and desperate. A flurry of voices surrounded her, rising in pitch like a chaotic symphony. "You are lost, forgotten, just like her." Gritting her teeth, Mia pushed through the noise, her focus pinned on the beacon. "I want to stop." Then suddenly her feet hit an open space. The light enveloped her, its warmth igniting the cold around her. She blinked against its brilliance, heart racing. Was this safety, or just another trick? "Mia!" The sound sent a fresh surge of panic through her. It was a voice, a familiar voice echoing from within the light. "Mia, come to me." Was that her mother? Mia turned, heart pounding, ready to leap toward the reassuring voice. But just before she could take a step, the shadows crashed into her from behind. "Stay with us," their whisper crawled through the air, wrapping around her like chains. "You'll be ours if you come back." Feeling their grasp pulling her, she scrambled toward the light. It beckoned, shining brighter, pushing against the encroaching darkness. But the shadows tugged at her, their icy fingers digging deeper. "No!" Mia roared, wrenching her body away from their feeble hold. She took a step into the light, feeling the rippling warmth swallow her whole. The moment she crossed the threshold, the world twisted. The shadows screamed, a collective wail that sliced through the air. "You can escape." But Mia didn't look back. She propelled herself forward, the light engulfing her, a cocoon of warmth and safety. And as the shadows recoiled, she felt the light solidify, giving her strength. Then, in an instant, it vanished. The air shifted, and where warmth had been, a chill rolled back in, the light flickering like a dying star. Mia's breath caught as she realized she stood in another realm, a landscape distorted, an echo of what had been. A ghostly version of her old world loomed around her, filled with haunting whispers. "Mom?" An echo returned her voice, a ghastly reflection. Mia, there was no choice but to move forward, though terror gnawed at her insides. The figures shuffled in the gloom, blurred and indistinct. But one shape stood out, a small silhouette against the gray head hanging low. "Is that you?" Mia whispered, hesitating. But the figure raised its head slowly, revealing hollow eyes, just like the shadow from before. A familiar smile stretched across its lips, one that felt all too wrong, tainted by darkness. "Welcome to my feast," it murmured, voice crackling like ice. And the question loomed heavily in the air. Was this merely the start of a far greater nightmare? Rachel gasped as she plummeted into an endless abyss, yanked back to consciousness by the sharp pang of panic coursing through her. The world shifted around her like sand in a storm as she surged forward, fighting against the unyielding grip of darkness that sought to drag her down. In that moment, The flicker of hope burned stronger than ever. Somewhere in that engulfing void, Mia still lingered, and Rachel wouldn't allow herself to become just another echo of despair. "Mia!" she shouted, voice hoarse but fierce, slicing through the shadows. Every ounce of fear ignited with purpose as she lunged toward the fading light ahead, the glimmer of safety piercing through the malevolence surrounding her. In a heartbeat, she stumbled through an opening, finding herself back in that dimly lit amphitheater. But this space felt less suffocating. Shadows still clawed at the edges, but a thin veil of clarity bathed the area in pale light, sending a wave of cool acceptance washing over her. "Mia!" Rachel cried, scanning the space. The walls were etched with strange markings that shimmered softly, revealing the echoes of past horrors. But that wasn't her focus. She could feel the echo of her daughter's presence nearby, a heartbeat intertwined with her own. And then she saw her, standing at the far end of the chamber, staring with those wide, innocent eyes. The shadows twisted wildly around her, eager to claim their prey, but Mia remained untouched, like a candle flickering defiantly against the storm. Mia screamed, fear cascading through her little voice, taut with unyielding honesty. Rachel's heart lunged, the bond between them as real as the air they breathed. "Hold tight, sweetheart. I'm coming." Rachel charged forward, each step invigorated by love's fierce strength. They were no longer fragments lost in this nightmarish festival. They were a living force unyielding against the darkness. As Rachel reached for Mia, the shadows hissed and writhed, almost voicing a primal rage at her intrusion. The air thickened with foreboding, but Rachel propelled herself forward, drowning out the whispers of fear surrounding her. "We will break free," she shouted defiantly, hand outstretched towards her daughter. Mia's tiny fingers wrapped seamlessly around hers, and the moment their hands connected, a warm light erupted, radiating through the darkness like a lighthouse cutting across treacherous seas. Shadows writhed in pain, twisting over one another as the light's touch burned against them. "Let us go," Rachel urged, and together they tore through the assembly of shadows, a rush of powerful emotion echoing through them. They surged towards the other side, the threshold revealing a new realm, a glimmering twilight where light danced in joyous abandon. The shadows clawed at their heels, voices screaming in anguish, but they pressed on, united. "We won, let you win," Rachel shouted, as the chamber behind them crumbled, smoke and echoes caught in the radiant embrace of their love. And then, they burst through, thrown into a bright expanse alive and untainted by the night. Warmth surrounded them, a comforting hug of sun-kissed light and open skies, each breath filled with the scent of possibility rather than the damp, cold grip of despair. Rachel's heart swelled. "Mia, we made it," she exclaimed, laughter bubbling with relief. They spun in a circle amidst the newfound beauty, joy eclipsing every shadow that lingered too long in their memories. "Mom," Mia giggled, the joy breaking free from the shackles of fear. "We're safe now." Together, Rachel whispered, cradling her daughter in a fierce embrace, drowning out the lingering whispers of that dark festival. As they stood in the embrace of daylight, Rachel felt the weight of terror begin to lift completely, the nightmares fading into mere shadows on the edge of sight. They had confronted the darkness, faced unimaginable fears, but fear also faded like the last remnants of smoke, and love boomed louder than any shadow. A promise echoed between their hearts, one of togetherness, of resilience. They would remember this night, not as a tale of despair but as a fierce testament that even in the face of darkness, love shines brightest. As the sun kissed the horizon goodnight, Rachel and Mia walked hand in hand into their future, leaving behind the lingering echoes of the vanishing voices, festival whispers of a night best kept forgotten. Now, if you're feeling that spark of adventure, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will send chills down your spine. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help us spread the thrill. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel the adrenaline rush of these tales. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.